Okay, hello and welcome to today's webinar on applying for spring-summer internships and graduate schemes. During today's session, we will be looking more closely at what internships and graduate schemes are, how they fit into the graduate jobs market, how and when to apply for them, and some top tips for succeeding in your applications. So firstly, let's look at when you might apply for internships and graduate schemes. So if you have a look at this slide, you can see a suggested ideal timetable for building your experience, including key dates for when you would ideally apply for and complete internships and make applications for graduate schemes. So as you can see, in your first year of an undergraduate degree, hopefully you will now have settled into university life, and you can use this time between November and June to have a look at some of the short insight days and weeks that might be available and other ways of developing your work experience. Some of the insight days and weeks you would need to apply for now if you wanted to do those next spring or summer. With the current COVID situation, increasingly we are seeing a lot of events and insights, etc., being held online. And in your first year, it's a good idea to try and get involved in societies, have a think about maybe taking on a position of responsibility and build up your work experience, possibly through voluntary work or maybe through getting a part-time job. And towards the end of your first year, I would suggest that you start looking into internship options that you can apply for in your second year. And then moving into your second year, this is an ideal time to build your work experience by completing internships. Some internships will have closing dates now for the following spring and summer. So it'd be kind of between now and maybe November, December time, possibly going into January, February as well. And finally, if you are a final year student or a postgraduate student studying a master's, etc., the time between October to December of your final year or of your postgraduate degree are ideal times to apply for graduate schemes. And this is because many of the graduate schemes that start the following year have closing dates between now and December, January, February. However, increasingly, many graduate recruiters recruit to their schemes all year round, and there has also been an increase of graduates doing graduate internships as well. So what are internships? Well, an internship is a period of work experience offered by an organisation lasting for a fixed period of time of anywhere between a week and 12 months. They're typically undertaken by undergraduates and graduates looking to gain relevant skills in the sector that you want to get into. You will be considered a worker for the period of your internship and should receive at least the national minimum wage for your age range in the UK. And several of the larger graduate recruiters have structured internships which take place in the spring and summer, with closing dates coming up now, as mentioned on the previous slide. These employers often use these internships to assess a student or graduate's capability and often recruit employees from their interns rather than advertising their vacancies externally. So it's a really good idea to try and do an internship where you have a real interest in, perhaps pursuing a career in, and to think about the option then to convert that into a graduate job where possible. So what are the different types of internship? So when you're looking for an internship, you will notice there are lots of different types of internships. So you've got your spring and summer vacation internships. So as I mentioned earlier, these are often offered by the larger graduate recruiters, but also are offered by a range of different employers. So competition can be quite fierce because, as mentioned, many of the graduate recruiters recruit to their graduate schemes from their interns. You've also got the insight days or weeks. So these are shorter days or weeks And these are really common in the finance sector. So if you're doing a business or finance degree, and you want to develop your finance skills, or any degree, if you want to maybe find out about getting into the finance sector, many of the financial organizations offer a short taster of the company. And this is often targeted towards first years, and would prepare you to then be able to apply for an internship in your second year. And with the current pandemic, we are seeing many insight days and weeks happening online. So you can find out about those and apply for them as well. So also you've got your all year round internship. So you can actually do an internship on a part-time basis alongside your degree. So these are advertised on the usual recruitment websites, or you could apply for one of the vacancies organised by the Roehampton Internship Scheme. And the Roehampton Internship Scheme details are available on their pages on CareerLink, where they also post their vacancies as well. And you've also got your summer studentships, which are suitable for life sciences or science degree, people doing science degrees. So if you are doing a science degree, you may be able to apply for a summer studentship, which would enable you to gain experience in a laboratory and on a scientific research project. So look out for information and application details on the web pages of various scientific professional bodies, such as the Royal Biological Society. And of course, you can organise an internship yourself. So lots of people are successful in organising internships through networking with their contacts, perhaps through LinkedIn, or by sending your CV speculatively to employers in the industry that you're interested in getting into. And should you require any help with your CV or cover letter for a speculative application, you can contact the Career Service and we'll help you with that. You may also decide to do an internship abroad, and there are lots of companies which offer the opportunity to go and do an internship abroad. However, quite often there is a fee involved, and it is worth checking with a careers advisor to make sure that they are reputable companies. But it could be a good way to, particularly if you are looking to build experience in a niche or very competitive field, possibly doing an internship abroad might give you that opportunity to develop that experience. And finally, virtual, which we'll talk about on the next slide. But virtual internships are becoming a lot more prevalent. So an internship is different from other types of work experience. So other types of work experience might include placements as part of your course, or work shadowing, which would involve spending possibly a few days to a week shadowing someone in a role. Summer jobs, where you might do a job in the summer, part-time or full-time, and volunteering, which is obviously another way to develop your work experience. And these other forms of work experience are very, very valuable, and internships can be quite competitive as well to get into. So if you aren't able to secure an internship, then obviously have a look at some of these other options as well, or do these things alongside doing an internship, because basically any experience that you can build during your degree is very, very valuable when it comes to getting future employment after you graduate. So yes, virtual internships. These are becoming much more widespread, particularly in the current situation with COVID-19. So for example, all of the recent Roehampton Internship Scheme internships have been virtual. So what is virtual work experience? Well, it's also known as online or remote or e-experience. So what virtual internships give you the opportunity to complete an internship from home, and usually all you need is a laptop and a stable internet connection. And they share a lot of similarities with traditional in-person internships, but you have because they are online, you can actually do these internships across the globe, so they don't have the sort of limitations of a location. And they are very relevant at the moment because they are often the only way that you can actually develop your experience at the moment, particularly with the coronavirus restrictions. So what do virtual internships involve? Well, virtual internships will involve you having a job to complete, some possibly project work that you'll be getting involved in, as well as helping out with lots of small jobs that you would do. And obviously, increasingly, lots of companies are working remotely anyway, so you might get involved in supporting their work remotely. And you would be expected to also attend online meetings and have meetings with your supervisor or mentor, as well as taking part in virtual networking sessions and training sessions and possibly social events as well. Right, so the typical experience of an intern. So typically as an intern, you would attend an induction, and the whole experience really is about helping you to learn more about that company's culture, and get involved in the day-to-day work that's happening. Also, you should have a buddy or a mentor and possibly get involved in some projects and have the opportunity to network. And the key thing is that you would be able to find out if you really enjoy this type of work and whether this is the industry or role that you'd like to get into. So how can you find an internship? Well, it's very important, firstly, to identify your interests. So you really should start by thinking about yourself. You know, what skills do you have? What interests do you have? And what skills would you like to develop further? So think about your career interests and research industries that would be good to do an internship in, just to enable you to focus your search. And also the thing to think about as well is that there are lots of different types of internships available. So you can do, for example, a marketing internship within lots of different, you could do it within the media sector, you could do it within the finance sector, the retail sector. So have a think about the types of internship you'd like to do and the types of sector you'd like to do as well. And you can register for alerts on websites such as Rate My Placement or E4S in order to find out about new internship vacancies. Also, it's a good idea to look directly at the careers and recruitment sections of employers of interest, as well as following them on their social media channels where they often post information about internships. And also look on the specialist recruitment sites for the industries you're interested in getting into. So, for example, if it's science, you could have a look on Grad. If it's arts, you could look on arts jobs. And you also may want to attend some of the career fairs as well. At the moment, there are a number of virtual career fairs happening, which you can attend and network with employers to find out about internships, as well as possibly making speculative applications as well. And if you are working as well, sometimes people can find internships. For example, if you're working for an organization already and they have a head office, you could perhaps see whether you could complete an internship with their head office or in a role where you take on more responsibilities. So why should you do an internship? Well, doing an internship has many benefits. It will increase your skills and knowledge. It will improve your understanding of a particular job or industry, provide you with networking opportunities, and also give you real work examples to use in future job interviews. And one of the most crucial benefits of doing an internship is the fact that it will give you an edge over other applicants. So, when it comes to applying for graduate jobs, what you'll find is there can often be a large number of applicants for each job. So to be successful in your graduate employment search, you'll need to make sure that you stand out from the crowd. So if you've done some good quality work experience, either through an internship or perhaps voluntary work or other means that we discussed earlier, then it will really put you ahead of other candidates who might not have that experience. Now let's look at what a graduate scheme is. So what is a graduate scheme? Well, a graduate scheme is a structured training program run by an employer to develop future leaders of their organisation. And they usually last between 1 and 2 years, although they can be longer. And they're often available in a number of specialisms or streams. So it could be, for example, finance or retail, HR, digital marketing or marketing, management, law, etc. And a large portion of them are within the commercial sector, although there are also several graduate schemes in the public sector, charities, hospitality, health service, social service, etc. And since the pandemic, the level of vacancies are running lower than normal. So they estimate around, at the moment, around 55 to 60% of normal rate, but this is climbing slowly. So while graduate schemes recruitment is down, it's probably not as bad as some of the rest of the jobs market. And some recruiters are anticipating a potential rapid recruitment round, even when the economic conditions allow. So it's important to think about as well where a graduate scheme fits into the overall graduate job market. So as you can see, there are some key differences between applying for a graduate scheme and applying for a graduate entry job. So, for example, in terms of the structure, a graduate scheme will be have a fixed amount of time that it lasts for, which will be advertised in the job description, whereas an entry-level job might just be kind of an ad hoc training period, and then it should possibly be a permanent role. In terms of the industry coverage, there is a largely commercial focus with graduate schemes, although, as mentioned earlier, they do contain lots of different disciplines within that, from marketing to sales to leadership roles. So it's worth bearing that in mind as well. In terms of the graduate intake, graduate schemes tend to take in numerous students at a time, whereas graduate entry jobs might just be 1 or 2 roles maximum. And with the recruitment timelines, with a graduate scheme, as mentioned earlier, quite often there are 1 or 2 intakes a year in advance for the following year, whereas a graduate entry job would be flexible as and when required. And with graduate schemes, the majority offer internships. So if you are particularly interested in a particular employer, and you want to get onto their graduate scheme, it's worth looking to see if they also offer internships. And the percentage, so this is a key difference, is that actually the graduate schemes are a minority of the overall graduate vacancies available. The majority are actually through graduate entry jobs. So that's just something to bear in mind if you don't get onto a graduate scheme. If you want to apply for one but you don't succeed, know that there's lots of the majority of graduate entry jobs are actually, the majority of graduate jobs are graduate entry jobs. And in terms of the competition, they can be highly competitive with graduate schemes. And again, if it's a graduate entry job, this will depend on the opportunity. So types of graduate schemes. So there's 3 main types of graduate scheme: rotational schemes, technical expert schemes, and project schemes. And the latter aim to combine aspects of the previous 2. So rotational schemes tend to place new graduates in a broad managerial position This gives you a role across a range of departments, and this is ideal if you're looking for a very varied role. You'll be trained in across a number of areas and projects and learn plenty of skills. And the technical expert scheme focuses on one specific area of your career and very specific skill sets. So these schemes tend to revolve around more specialised roles such as human resources, marketing, sales, etc. And this is ideal if you know what job you want to get into. However, if you can't decide on a career path, it could be better to gain a broader range of skills. And finally, you've got the project schemes, which will combine aspects of both rotational and technical expert schemes. And they offer graduates a chance to work on a variety of roles while occasionally focusing on perfecting specific skill sets. So before you apply for a graduate scheme, it's worth really considering what the scheme involves, what type of scheme it is, how long the training is, whether you have the opportunity to gain a qualification from it, which a lot of graduate schemes offer. So do your research before you apply. Now, what can you expect from a graduate scheme? Well, most graduate schemes will have an introductory period or an induction, and this is where participants spend their time getting to know the company, learning about each department and getting to know the clients of the company. And after that period, you would be involved in some training and then start your rotations if it's a rotational scheme that you're doing. And you would be guided through the scheme by your mentor as well. And there should be, several graduate schemes offer the opportunity to gain a professional qualification as well. So, for example, if you were applying for the frontline social work scheme, then you would obtain a master's in social work by doing that scheme. Or perhaps if you're doing an HR program, then you would get the CIPD qualifications alongside that. And then there would be a completion date for your graduate scheme, and then hopefully you would then be offered a permanent position. So that's kind of a typical timeline of what would happen on a graduate scheme. And where can you find information about graduate schemes? Well, you can have a look on these different websites. So you've got Bright Network, which is actually gives a lot of the deadlines for graduate schemes, application deadlines, and then you've got Target Jobs, Milk Round, and Prospects. So these are really good websites if you want to have a look at what internships and graduate schemes are available at the moment and what's being advertised. And then you've got your Times Top 100, which is they describe it as a definitive guide to the leading employers recruiting graduates. So you can have a look at that. Usually we would have physical copies available, but this year there is an online version which you can register for. So if you go to the Times Top 100 website, fill in some details, and then you'll get your electronic copy. Also, CareerLink, which is your University of Roehampton portal, careers portal. You can have a look on there. There's lots of information on there. We have a list of graduate schemes available, and we also have the job search engine where you can search for internships and graduate schemes. And finally, you should look directly on employer websites, because often you can make a list of the ones that you're interested in and have a look directly on their careers pages, as well as following different companies on social media to find out about their schemes. And this slide here just demonstrates some of the different companies that offer graduate schemes. So as mentioned earlier, some of the graduate schemes are a little bit down on last year, and particularly the internships seem to be taking a hit. Quite a lot of the reason for that is because of the fact that a lot of companies now are working from home, so they're not necessarily doing their summer internships, although there are several summer internships still available. So keep an eye on those. But as you can see, you've got graduate schemes across all industries, from publishing to media to the big retailers to the banks, and the public sector as well. So it's worth exploring all the different options that are open to you, and thinking about your skills and experience and how that might relate to some of these schemes. And again, just a reminder of the public sector graduate opportunities. So there's lots of opportunities within the public sector as well. So you've got your civil service fast stream, Teach First, Police Now, and you've got the local government scheme as well, and the NHS graduate management training scheme as well. So lots of options within the public sector, as well as the private sector as well. And also what you will find is that quite often the graduate schemes ask for a 2-1, but also increasingly graduate schemes do accept a 2-2. So, from the NHS through to John Lewis, Land Rover, etc., they do accept a 2-2. And so definitely have a look around and see what might be good for you, depending on what you're on target to achieve as well within your degree program. And in terms of researching different graduate employers that you could work for, well, make sure that you've done your research and think carefully about some of the factors that you would like to have for your employer. So, for example, the size, do you want to work for a big multinational corporation, or would you prefer to work for a smaller, medium-sized firm? What about the company culture as well? What sort of values do they have, work ethic? What kind of structure do they have? So think about those things and how you might fit into that company culture. Think about the location as well. Are you willing to relocate, or do you want to do a scheme in a particular area? So think about that as well. Commuting as well is something to consider. Do you want to, particularly somewhere like London, commutes can get quite long, so you might want to consider the commute as well as your work-life balance, and thinking about the sorts of training that's involved in the graduate scheme as well, whether that would be in-house on the job, or whether you might be able to take part in some professional qualifications as well. So there's lots of things to consider when you're choosing an employer to work for. Right, so I just wanted to take you through as well some of the application process for structured schemes. So this is both for graduate schemes and also some of the structured internships as well. So as you will see, most graduate schemes are open now with their online job advertisements. So when you apply, you will sometimes need to apply with your CV and fill out some questions in an online application form. So that's kind of stage 1. And it's important to get this right and make sure you don't make any silly mistakes at this point in terms of your grammar, spelling, etc. So if you want somebody to check over your CV or application form, make sure that you send the application, your answers, etc., or your CV over to the career service so that we can have a look at it before the deadline for applying. And then once those that get through the initial stage of applying would then be invited to screening. So this stage can involve a video interview. So this isn't a live video interview, rather you will log into a system and the questions will appear on your screen and you will be recorded giving a timed answer. And it's important to prepare for these in advance. So it is suggested that you gain some interview practice, which you can do There are some resources on career links such as Interview 360, which you might want to have a look at. And you can also book a mock interview as well. So in addition to the video interview, you might then be asked to do some online testing as well. So these can be your aptitude tests, such as numerical and verbal reasoning tests, or situational judgment tests, and personality tests as well. Now, there's lots of test preparation materials available online. We do have some on CareerLink, some of the aptitude tests as well. But it's also a good idea to have a look at resources where they have the test and then they have some practice tests, but they also have explanations of the answers so that you can kind of see how the questions are asked and then understand how they are asked, which will help you improve. And it's definitely a good idea to, if you have got any kind of testing coming up, to do lots of practice in advance of that. And then finally, if you make it through the tests and the online tests, then at that point you might be invited to an assessment centre. Now, some of the graduate recruiters have changed the way that they are operating this year. They're not bothering with assessment centres, they're going straight for interviews. Or they might do the assessment centre online rather than in person, for obvious reasons to do with the pandemic. So if you have an assessment centre coming up, what will happen is you would, in the assessment centre itself, you would have lots of different exercises to do. So it's important to do your research in advance of the assessment centre so that you can understand what's going to happen during the assessment centre. So you can do that by researching the organisation as well as speaking to a careers advisor to gain some help. And finally, interviews. Well, as mentioned earlier, there's lots of help that we can provide for you for interviews, whether that be through a mock interview or just sitting down and in a careers appointment that we can organise on Zoom and going through some of the typical questions that you might be asked. So there's lots of things that you can use on CareerLink to help you practice for the recruitment processes. So you've got your aptitude tests, you've got your assessment centre tool, you've got Interviews 360, etc. So make sure that you have a look at those. In addition, there are a number of different resources online, such as prospects, psychometric test information. Assessment Day is another really good site. You've got your wiki job there, Graduates First. So there's lots of stuff that you can have a look into to help you prepare. And if you would like any guidance on that, just get in touch with us and we can help you. Now, as mentioned earlier, now is the time to apply for some of these spring and summer internships. As you can see from this slide, lots of the application deadlines are actually coming up this month in November. So if you're interested in the finance sector, there's quite a number of spring insights happening. So as you can see with Goldman Sachs City Spring Insight Programme, and then you've got that one with the solicitors there. So all of those application deadlines are coming up in November. And then your summer internships as well. So for example, BAE Systems, you've got a range of different internships across a number of different disciplines where you have to apply by the 19th of November. Sky as well. And then you've got King and TikTok offering sort of social media type internships for people that have got a bit of a marketing or digital media background. That could be a good one for you. Marks and Spencers are offering a number of different internships across various disciplines, including food technology and buying and merchandising as well. So where to look for these? Well, you can go to milkround.com, targetjobs.co.uk, rate my placement, and also the CareerLink job search engine is really good as well to have a look on to search for internships. And then similarly with the graduate schemes, you do have deadlines coming up this month, next month, and in January. So as you can see, you've got your City, Marks and Spencer's, L'Oreal, Police now, and Unlocked, which is the prisons service graduate scheme. So they've all got deadlines coming up, and then quite a number of graduate schemes also have rolling deadlines, a large number actually, such as Amazon, Aldi, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, etc. So keep an eye on those. Again, you can go to targetjobs.co.uk, Bright Network as well, which lists all the kind of closing dates, etc. And again, CareerLink is good. So finally, top tips for applying for internships and graduate schemes. Well, firstly, make sure your CV is up to date. Lots of people have out-of-date CVs, so it's definitely useful to keep your CV up to date. So you might want to send that over to us to have a look at. Also, make sure you spend time on crafting a really great cover letter. A cover letter can really stand you out in comparison to other applicants if you've taken the time to really tailor it for a position and make sure that you've matched your experience and skills to the job. That will really put you ahead of other candidates. So also have a think about your unique selling points and how you could talk about them. So what makes you stand out from the crowd, basically? What is it that you've got? What kind of unique combination of skills, experience, interests, etc. have you got that make you stand out? Make sure that comes out in your application. And make a focused plan and stick to it. So again, doing that kind of research on yourself and thinking about yourself and researching industries, and then making a plan of different organizations and opportunities that you're going to apply for, and try to stick to a kind of a regular plan of applications in order to make sure that you kind of have a few things in the pipeline, really. Also, it's important to have a backup plan. So as you saw earlier, the graduate schemes market is quite small in comparison to the entire graduate jobs market. So have a backup plan of other options that you can go into, especially, you know, if things don't work out for your plan A. And make sure that you do practice those aptitude tests if you have got those as part of the recruitment process. So you can definitely get better at those if you practice them as well. And it's important as well to try and keep upbeat and keep going, because I'm sure you've heard this a lot before, but you know, resilience is something which is key when you're doing a job search, because you will have rejections, unfortunately, and you need to be able to pick yourself up and keep going and not get too disheartened by it all. And also, you know, you can use your career service. So we are here to help. We're here to help you as an undergraduate, postgraduate, and also as a graduate or alumni of the university. You can use our service for as long as you need to. So let's just have a brief reminder as well of what career guidance is available to you. So we have the live chat service available for you on CareerLink. That's Mondays to Fridays, 11 to 4, and you can ask a question, an instant question through our live chat service, and a member of the careers service will be in touch with you straight away. We've also got bookable video appointments. So we've got careers advice, mock interviews, work experience appointments. So you just head over to CareerLink and click on the appointments tab to book one of those. And finally, we are able to also offer advice and guidance and tips on things such as your CV, or if you've got any kind of quick questions you want to ask the team, you can also email us, and that's careers@roehampton.ac.uk. The other thing to do is to follow us on Twitter as well as Instagram and Facebook. So our Twitter is @URCareersHub. Our Instagram is roehampton.careers, and our Facebook is UR Career Service. So please have a look on there, and because we do post regularly things such as internship, part-time jobs, and graduate jobs, etc. on there. So we've come to the end of today's session. I'm just going to stop sharing at the moment and ask if anybody has any questions at all that they would like to ask. You can either put that in the chat box, or you can ask me a question. Just unmute yourselves to ask a question. I haven't had any questions yet. If you do have any questions, of course, you are also welcome to send your questions in to the careers inbox as well. We're always happy to help in the career service. We can help you with your CV, applications for part-time jobs, internships, careers advice, that if you're struggling to know what path to take next, we can provide you with that help and support, and help you with your career planning as well. Okay, so a couple of questions come in. Let's have a look. Whom should I send my CV for improvement? Okay, thank you. Yes, so if you would like to send your CV in for improvement, you just send it, as you've said in on the chat in your question. You just send it to careers@roehampton.ac.uk. Don't just send it in though without any information. You know, send it in, and if you could put a note on there to say that you would like to, you know, get some support with your CV, and maybe put in information about what type of job it is for. Okay, because we always advise people to tailor their CV to the job. So if you can provide some information around the types of jobs that you're going for, then we'll check your CV and make sure it's suitable for those types of jobs. Okay, question 2. What should I consider if we wish to apply for an internship abroad? That's a good question. Well, there are a number of different organisations that offer internships abroad. I think one thing to consider is that there might be a fee involved, because you know, they actually ask for you to pay a fee, depending on, you know, I guess to cover the travel expenses and that sort of thing as well. But I suppose the thing to consider is, you know, is the type of experience that you want to get. Are you going to get that experience by doing this internship? Where would you like to do the internship? And you know, what sort of support is the organisation offering? And will that opportunity give you the experience that you require for your CV? So I guess there's lots to consider really. But I would definitely, if you are considering doing an internship abroad, I would speak to a careers advisor. So I would book an appointment, as mentioned earlier on the appointments tab. So book an appointment, and we can certainly have a chat with you about what your options might be and how that would work for you. So another question. I am in India right now waiting for visa. Should I think about applying for internship part-time job only after coming to UK? Yeah, because to work, if you want to work in the UK, you're going to need a national insurance number. So you will need to come to the UK first, get your visa, etc., and then apply for an internship or part-time job once you're in the UK, once you've got your national insurance number. But also, you know, you might want to think about other internships abroad, etc., you know, depending on what your situation is. Okay, so hopefully that answered your questions. But if anyone's got a question, any questions at all, or what they want careers advice specific to yourselves, feel free, obviously, to book an appointment through the appointments tab on CareerLink, as mentioned, or send your questions into careers@roehampton.ac.uk. And on that note, I think all that remains is to say thank you very much for attending today's session. I hope that it was useful and provided you with some information that will help you with your career journey. And yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for coming. You're free to leave.